I froze. I couldn't breathe. She stood and pointed at me, voice echoing off the marble walls. He's a liar. All he does is lie. I felt my chest tighten as every eye in that packed courtroom shifted to me. Even the judge's pen paused mid-scratch. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Only the pounding of my heart and the taste of shock in my throat. Is this really happening? I thought. Am I about to lose everything? My reputation, my son, my peace, because she decided to brand me a fraud? Then I saw him. My nephew, Ben, sitting in the gallery with a stack of papers clutched in his shaking hand. And then he stood. He walked to the bailiff and said, "Your Honor, I have something the court needs to see." The clerk accepted the pages, printouts of a Google Chat transcript. Silence fell. All I could think was, please, let this be the proof I need. But as those pages made their way to the judge's desk, I knew this was only the beginning of the story, and the fight for my truth had just begun. I am Jason Thorne. I am 38 years old. I am a high school literature teacher who believes in the power of words, until words nearly destroyed me. I wake before dawn in our modest 2-bedroom home on Elm Street, where morning light filters through thin curtains and gently wakes my son, Caleb. I am the one who makes his breakfast: 2 scrambled eggs, a slice of whole grain toast, and a glass of orange juice. I am the one who ties his shoelaces, reminds him to pack his math homework, and kisses his forehead before he steps onto the school bus. I am divorced. My ex-wife, Maria, left 5 years ago. She said she needed space, said city life was too small for her dreams. She took half of our savings, moved downtown, and rarely called. But I didn't hate her. I just accepted that our paths had diverged. I'm close with my sister Marianne. At least I used to be. She's 5 years older, a whirlwind of charisma and chaos, with flaming red hair and a laugh that can fill a room. She runs on spontaneity, last-minute road trips, impromptu poetry slams, cheap tattoos at midnight. I run on routine. I schedule my life in neatly labeled calendars. I label my leftovers in the fridge. I never forget an appointment. I am the dependable one, the caregiver, the safe harbor in any storm. Life was calm until Marianne messaged one afternoon, her tone urgent. "Jason, I'm between places. Can I crash with you? I swear, just a couple weeks." I hesitated. My inner monologue raced. What if she breaks? Another lease? What if she never leaves? Yet I typed, "Of course. You know my door is always open. I am the one who believes family comes first." So she moved in. For the first week, I reveled in nostalgia. The late-night talks, her wild stories of escape rooms in Berlin, her habit of quoting Hemingway while drinking cold brew. Caleb was thrilled to have his aunt around. I felt proud, like I'd given my son a gift. I am the teacher who sees potential. I saw it in Marianne and wanted to nurture it. By week 2, the glow began to fade. I am the one who notices every detail. I noticed the dishes piling up, the clothes abandoned on the couch, the noise of her stereo when I was grading essays. I am the one who values quiet. Marianne apologized in her breezy way. "Oh, come on. You need to relax. I'll clean later." I am the one who wants peace more than confrontation. So I let it slide. But then I am the one who discovers a forged signature on Caleb's permission slip, his name scrawled in her handwriting. I hold the form in my hand, heart hammering, mind shouting. She crossed a line. I confront her over coffee, in our cramped kitchen. She sips her tea and says, "I was helping. Relax, Jason. It's for Caleb." I am the father who doesn't overreact. So I nod, swallow my frustration, and say, "Just ask me next time." I am the man who believes in clear communication. The days that follow are punctuated by small tensions, her hinting to neighbors that I'm strict to a fault, my flashing annoyance when she borrows my car without asking, Caleb's quiet, questions about why Aunt Em is upset. I am the one who prays these are growing pains. Yet, on a Friday afternoon, as I prepare lesson plans, my phone buzzes, a group chat with our childhood friends. Marianne has posted, "Dear Jason, stop lecturing me in front of your kid. Control much? I am the teacher who's graded thousands of essays on tone and subtext. I can feel the poison in those words." I text her, "Please delete that." She replies, "Do you want the truth or more of your lectures?" I am the man who's lost at how to bridge the gap between honesty and hostility. Then I am the one who hears Caleb's small voice from the living room. "Dad, are you mad at Aunt Marianne?" I swallow. I meet his eyes. And I am the one who says, "I'm not mad, buddy. I just want everyone to be happy." I am the father who will do anything for his child, except let injustice pull us under. But as I climb the stairs to check on him that night, I am uneasy. I sense a storm brewing in our home, and I am not yet strong enough to stop it. And that storm, the one that would howl through our lives and strip us to our bones, was only just beginning. I am the father who treasures trust, and it was trust that Marianne began to erode, grain by grain, with her quiet manipulations. I remember the first time I sensed it. I walked into the living room after school to find Caleb staring at his tablet, eyes red-rimmed. I asked him what was wrong, and he hesitated before saying, "Aunt Em said you don't care about me." I felt my chest tighten. I went to him, knelt, and asked, "What did she say, buddy?" He whispered, "She said you only care about teaching and grading papers, not about fun." His lip quivered. I am the teacher who knows how words can wound, and I had never described myself in that way. I hugged him and said, "I love you more than anything. Fun is coming this weekend, I promise." That night, I confronted Marianne over dinner. I described the exchange. She raised her eyebrows, leaned back in her chair, and said calmly, "Kids are impressionable, Jason. I was just being honest. You could loosen up." Then she smiled, a slow, measured smile, as though she'd proven a point. I am the one who sees a predator when I can't pinpoint the danger. Something about that smile chilled me. Over the next weeks, her barbs increased in subtlety. In front of neighbors, "Jason's so uptight. He schedules his hugs." To my colleagues when they dropped by, "He thinks life is a spreadsheet." In Caleb's earshot, always just loud enough for him to catch, I am the man who kept silent, too polite to call her out publicly. But in private, my frustration became a low simmer. Then came the night I found the voicemail. I was grading essays late in my study when my phone buzzed with a notification. New voicemail from home. I pressed play. An unfamiliar voice, distant, but clear. "He's angry. He snapped at Caleb. I heard it. You should know." The line clicked dead. I raced to the living room. Caleb sat curled on the couch, tears on his cheeks. He said, "I heard it. I heard you shout." But I had been alone in my study, dead silent. I am the one whose mind raced, replaying every sound. The only raised voice I'd made was in my car, singing along to the radio. I confronted Marianne again. She feigned surprise. "Who left that? I don't know. Weird." I am the man determined to protect my son's sense of safety, and I decided then to gather evidence. I installed a small recorder in the living room, obscure, between two books on my shelf, so I could know the truth of what was said. I am the one who believes in facts over feelings. The recorder picked up more things. Whispers from Marianne after I'd left the room. her voice dripping disdain. "He's such a wreck. Caleb deserves better." Footsteps in the hallway at midnight when I knew she wasn't too tired to be awake. Phone beeps as she forwarded messages. And then, late one Saturday, I heard her dialing my number from her phone. Then I heard her own voice call back and leave a voicemail on our home line, repeating words I'd never uttered. Then I heard her giggle. "I am the man who listens for evidence in the silence." I transferred the files, time-stamped them on my computer, and backed them up, but I still hesitated to use them. I am the one who fears escalating family conflict. Yet, every day I watched Caleb's bright spirit dim, questions creeping into his voice. "Why does Aunt say you're cruel? Did I do something wrong?" I am the father who can't bear to see his child confused. So I brought Caleb to his therapist, Dr. Delgado, a warm, empathetic woman in her 40s who listens without judgment. I told her I suspected outside influence. I am the man searching for allies. Dr. Delgado nodded, concern etched on her face. "Children pick up on adult tensions," she said. "If he's questioning your kindness, something is impacting him." She recommended family sessions. I agreed, hoping Marianne might see the harm she'd caused and change course. I am the optimist who believes confrontation can heal. But the first session was a disaster. Marianne arrived late, her expression cold. When Dr. Delgado asked her to describe Caleb's needs, she deflected. "He needs a dad who isn't fragile." I am the one who felt every word like a lash. Caleb sat between us, shifting uncomfortably. He looked at me, and I felt a stab in my heart. Afterwards, I gathered my courage. I pulled out the recorder. I pressed play. The room fell silent as the distorted layering of her voice playing her lies echoed. Marianne's eyes widened. Dr. Delgado watched, horrified. I am the man who chose truth over family peace. Marianne left that night, slamming the door behind her, her footsteps heavy, but the damage was done. Caleb's trust was fractured. I am the father who carried guilt like a weight. And outside the door, I knew this would end in more than raised voices. I knew it would end in a courtroom. What happens when love and truth collide in a trial? I am the father who believed a home should be a sanctuary. I am the man who never imagined I'd question my own words. But I stood at the edge of collapse the morning I watched my son's faith in me crack. I was packing Caleb's lunch. Peanut, butter sandwich, apple slices, and his favorite chocolate chip cookie, when he hovered by the counter, eyes downcast. I asked, "Buddy, you okay?" He shrugged. "Aunt Marianne says you called her a leech and a liar. I am the one whose blood ran cold." I turned to him. "Did she show you proof?" He nodded, clutching his backpack strap. "Screenshots. On my tablet." My hands trembled as I set down the lunch bag. I am the man who trusts what he sees on a screen. Yet, I had never sent those messages. I bent down and asked, "Can I see?" The tablet glowed with a chat window labeled Jason T. Messages scrolled, "You've always been irresponsible. Leeching off my generosity. Stay out of my life." I watched Caleb's face mirror confusion and hurt. I felt my heart splinter. I am the father who would move mountains for my child. I am the one who picked up the phone and left a voicemail on Marianne's cell. "What have you done? Explain this now." Her reply was immediate. "It's for Caleb's own good. He needs to know the truth about you." And then, silence. I am the man who felt betrayed by blood. That evening, I reviewed my recorder's files. One last desperate attempt to find answers. I sat in my study, the glow of my computer illuminating stacks of papers and legal pads. I pressed play on the latest recording. Marianne's voice echoed, "His son deserves better. Why are you so controlling?" I paused and fast-forwarded. Then I heard the sound of typing, her own keyboard, not mine, followed by the voicemail. Tone, her voice reading the false messages out loud, then sending it from her phone to our home line. I clicked through timestamps, visible proof she had created a fake chat, recorded it, and delivered it to Caleb. I am the man who held evidence in his hands, yet felt powerless. The next morning, Caleb refused to leave his room. I knocked gently. "Please, come eat breakfast." He shook his head. "I can't face her." I swallowed. I tried to explain, but the words tangled in my throat. I am the one who watches his son shut down. I called our family attorney, Ms. Harper. Her voice was calm but firm. "Jason, you need to file for custody immediately. These recordings, the Google takeout data, genuine logs, will be critical, but you must move fast. I am the man propelled into action by fear." I drafted the petition that afternoon, detailing emotional abuse, manipulation, and false allegations. I attached the audio files and the original Google chat logs from my actual account. I hand-delivered the documents to the courthouse. I am the father who fights with every resource I have. Days later, I received the summons. Marianne was countersuing for custody, claiming I was unfit and unstable. The letter burned in my hands like acid. I am the man who knew there was no turning back. On the drive to court for our preliminary hearing, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. Caleb sat beside me, silent, eyes red from crying. I reached over and held his hand. "We're going to set things right, buddy." He gave a small nod. I am the father who must be both shield and sword. In the courtroom hall, I saw Marianne through the glass door, her posture rigid, face unreadable. She glanced at me, lips tightening in a silent vow of war. I am the man who knows the battlefield has been set. As we took our seats, I felt every eye in the room turn toward my family. The judge entered. Gavels, the clerk called the case. I stifled a breath and sat up straight. This is it, I thought, the moment of reckoning. And with Caleb at my side and the truth on our side, I steeled myself for the fight to reclaim our lives. I am the man who believed the truth would prevail. Yet standing in that courtroom, I wasn't sure anyone would believe our story. I rose when the judge called our case. My voice trembled as I said, "Your Honor, we have crucial evidence not yet reviewed." I watched Marianne's lawyer look up, smug. He didn't expect us to have anything. Then I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was my nephew, Ben, Caleb's cousin, holding a USB drive. He leaned in and whispered, "This is the full Google takeout archive, not just snippets." I swallowed, nodded, and handed it to the bailiff. The judge examined it, then said, "We'll review this in camera." Sat back down, heart pounding. Every second felt like an hour, as the judge and clerk disappeared behind the bench with the drive. When they returned, the courtroom was silent. Even the flip of a lawyer's notebook sounded loud. The judge fixed her gaze on Marianne's lawyer. "These files contain no record of the messages presented. They do contain metadata showing a secondary account, created 3 weeks ago, with your client's IP address used to fabricate the transcript." A murmur rippled through the gallery. I looked at Caleb, his eyes wide, hopeful. I am the father, watching vindication bloom. Marianne's lawyer stammered, "Your Honor, that could be anyone spoofing her IP." The judge cut him off. "We have CCTV from 3 different locations confirming Ms. Thorne accessed that dummy account from her phone." My nephew had anticipated every angle. He'd gathered the cafe camera footage, linked the timestamps to her phone records. He'd even cross-referenced the Wi-Fi logs from our home network showing 2 simultaneous logins, one genuine, one from an unrecognized device. I am the man in awe of family loyalty. Then the judge turned to me. "Mr. Thorne, Is there anything else you wish to add? I stood, voice steady. Your Honor, I'd like to call one more witness. I pointed to Dr. Delgado, our family therapist. She rose, stepped into the witness box, and swore under oath. She described the emotional toll on Caleb, the confusion, the anxiety, and how, in her professional opinion, the manipulative behavior constituted emotional abuse under family law statutes. She explained how children internalize lies and how restoring truth is necessary for their well-being. I am the father who fights not for victory, but for my child's healing. When she sat down, I returned to my seat. The judge closed her notebook and exhaled. I find in favor of Mr. Thorne. Custody remains with the father, and any visitation by Ms. Thorne will be supervised, pending further review. A gasp escaped from Marianne, who buried her face in her hands. I am the man who let relief wash over me like rain. Caleb whispered, I knew you wouldn't lie to me. I knelt and hugged him, feeling the tremor in my legs. I am the father who promised protection and kept it. As we filed out of the courtroom, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, but I only had eyes for my son. I wrapped an arm around his shoulders and whispered, Let's go home. Outside, Ben handed me a bundled stack of paperwork. Transcripts, metadata logs, therapist notes, all neatly organized. He winked and said, Couldn't let you go without everything. I am the man who learned the power of meticulous preparation. That evening, we drove past our old home, its windows dark. I felt a pang of loss for what we'd been through, but also gratitude for where we were headed. I am the one who knows that battles aren't won by force alone, but by truth, strategy, and those who stand by you. And as I tucked Caleb into bed, later that night, he looked up at me and said, Dad, promise me we'll always tell the truth? I kissed his forehead and replied, I promise, buddy, always. I am the man who kept that promise and reclaimed our lives. I am the man who heard the gavel echo like thunder. I am the father who felt relief flood every part of my being. Petition denied, the judge declared. Custody remains with Mr. Thorne. Supervised visitation only for Ms. Thorne. I sat, for a moment, stunned by the finality of it. My lawyer whispered congratulations. Caleb's small hand found mine under the table. I squeezed it, feeling the warmth of his trust restored. I walked out of the courtroom with my son at my side, each step lighter than the last. Reporters called my name, but I only wanted silence. I wanted to feel the sun on my face without the weight of falsehood pressing down. That afternoon, at home, I set up a small ceremony for Caleb and me. I pulled out art supplies, and we drew a picture of our family, just the two of us, holding hands under a bright sky. He wrote, Truth, in the corner, and I penned, Love. I am the father who rebuilds with intention. Later, I called Dr. Delgado to thank her. Her voice crackled over the phone, warm and proud. She reminded me that healing takes time, and that Caleb would need reassurance. I agreed to continue therapy sessions, this time for all three of us, to process what we'd endured. I am the man who knows the journey isn't over at the courthouse door. That evening, I sat on the porch with Caleb. The air was cool, the cicadas, softly singing their twilight song. I played a playlist of his favorite songs, old-school rock and gentle acoustic tunes. We laughed at inside jokes and shared cookies. The unspoken bond between us renewed. I am the father who cherishes small moments. Later still, after Caleb's head hit the pillow, I stood by his door, listening to his gentle breaths. I thought of Marianne, of how thin the line is between love and betrayal. I thought of the recordings, the files, the courtroom drama, and I felt gratitude for the nephew who stepped up, the therapist who guided us, and the judge who saw the truth. I am the man who understands that justice is a collective effort. The next morning, I returned to school with a renewed sense of purpose. My colleagues greeted me with cautious congratulations. I thanked them and steered clear of gossip. In my classroom, I told my students, and then told myself, that integrity matters above all. I am the teacher who practices what he preaches. At parent-teacher night, I saw a familiar face in the crowd, Ms. Harper, my attorney. She gave me a nod of respect. I waved and introduced her to one of my students as a friend. Later, I noticed a poster in the hallway. Truth matters, in bold letters. I felt a quiet smile. I am the man who lets his actions speak. Back at home, I updated the security system, installed new cameras and voice-activated recorders, not to foster suspicion, but to ensure transparency. Caleb helped me set them up, his confidence in me restored. I am the father who safeguards our peace. That weekend, we invited Ben over for a celebratory dinner. Spaghetti, garlic bread, and homemade brownies. Laughter filled the kitchen as we recounted the courtroom caper, complete with dramatic reenactments by Caleb. Marianne's absence was a hollow ache, but in its place was new strength, a little family forged by adversity. I am the man who transforms pain into connection. As night settled, I reflected on the ordeal. I realized I had learned more about vulnerability, evidence, and trust than any literature text could teach. I knew the scars might linger, but they were reminders of resilience. I am the man who carries both scars and hope. Before bed, I wrote, in my journal, a ritual I'd neglected during the trial. I survived the storm. I found strength I didn't know I had, and Caleb's smile is my greatest victory. Today, I rest in truth. I closed the book, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. I am the father. I am the man of truth. I am the witness to how lies can fracture trust, and how truth, when armed with evidence, can heal even the deepest wounds. I learned that. I am the believer that documenting details, timestamps, recordings, metadata, gives truth its voice. I am the advocate for emotional safety. Children need clarity, not confusion. I am the teacher of integrity. Our actions define us more than our words. I am the man who knows. The truth doesn't need permission. It endures. If you've ever felt gaslit, betrayed, or falsely accused, know this. You are not alone. Gather your evidence, seek supportive allies, and hold fast to your story. Trust that honesty will outshine deception in the end. If my story resonated with you, if you've faced a battle for your truth, share your experience in the comments. Let's build a community where voices are heard and lies are exposed. I am asking you, like this video if you believe in truth. Subscribe for more stories of resilience. Hit the bell so you never miss a tale where justice prevails. I am Jason Thorne, and this is my truth.